Welcome to Melt. I'm Suresh Venkat. The past few years have been a roller coaster for Indian direct-to-consumer or D2C brands. Some became unicorns, some challengers, and some also rans. What ties them all together, however, is the need to maximize profitability. And that's exactly where ecosystem partners come in. Last week, industry body MMA India and Publicis Commerce released the D2C Advantage Toolkit, a guide to maximize the ROI of D2C e-commerce investments. To know more, we are in conversation with MMA India's Moneka Khurana, Performics India's Lalatendu and the House of Masaba's Pratik Mukherjee. So what's the secret of success for profitable D2C players? What will be the role of the marketplace? And what's the next phase of evolution for D2C brands? Let's find out as we get ready to melt with Moneka, LD and Pratik. Moneka, LD and Pratik, welcome to Melt. Moneka, let's start with a simple question, a clear definition of what D2C is. There are standalone D2C businesses, there are hybrid businesses that started as D2C but are now brick and mortar. And then there is the online arm of a large brick and mortar player. So what exactly is D2C?
Okay, so D2C firstly needs to be seen in context. D2C in a standalone form would be a digital business itself which sells off D2C primarily, whilst the hybrid versions can be where they've begun as D2C and then turned omni-channel, or they've begun as brick and mortar and then also gone D2C. So it could be one of these routes via which they finally do operate in the D2C space. However, I think what's very important is to factor in what is the right time to invest in the D2C space, and the sooner is better. So that's what I would say.
So LD, related question to you. How do we understand these two things separately? Pureplay D2C standalone business versus the D2C business as part of an omni-channel strategy.
We can look at multiple ways, right? One, if you think from a business model perspective, if you are looking for a new opportunity in the market and you want to rapidly test out a product market fit, going the digital D2C route is apt because the low entry barrier, low capex you need to do, get started, test the market, and then figure out, right? Versus if you are in an industry where you already have a presence, it's a large category, competition is there, you already have a presence in offline mode, and what you are cracking is a gap in your supply chain, then maybe you can go with an omni-channel strategy, add D2C to complement your existing retail network. So horses for the courses, brands are taking different routes depending on their needs.
Pratik, once upon a time, e-commerce was heralded as this magical way to reduce costs. You don't need brick and mortar stores anymore. You don't need a giant amount of logistics anymore. You could just click and you could buy. Now, e-commerce is as expensive as physical retail to run, is it not?
Yeah. I'm also reflecting on what all of us are speaking. Having seen evolution of traditional brands and modern brands, no one used to call a brand a modern trade brand if 10 years back they would only launch with a particular modern trade customer. So why do we call brands as D2C brands if they choose to test pilot formulations, their packaging and other elements in today's time? So for me, it's a choice. There are brands I'm aware which even now test pilot only on e-commerce to get their product market fit right. They may be part of a house of brands which already exists in some form or shape with an e-commerce giant. So for them, some of the costs are already taken care of. So if they are now launching a new brand under the same house of brands, it's easier for them to quickly launch it for some time with one e-commerce partner, do a limited model launch and get the same set of learnings. So I feel these are all choices that founders or CEOs or decision makers make basis their products, their business model, the timing, the kind of budgets they have. Is it self-funded? Is it VC funded? How is it, what are the guardrails within which they are operating? Having said that, I have seen the power of both worlds. And there is a strong reason for the traditional channels, e-com and D2C to all coexist.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just about the timing and when.
LD, your report says that e-commerce is growing at a blinding pace of 19% per year, but 80% of D2C companies are yet to achieve profitability. Is there a cause for worry? Or is this the building phase, so we shouldn't worry too much?
I think it's yes and no on this question. You're right. I think it's still in an early phase where people are figuring out how to get the best out of D2C as a business, as a channel, and so on and so forth. And there is a lot of technological innovations happening, which are plugging some of the gaps, which was constraining the industry per se. At the same time, I say it's somewhat worrisome because there are some obvious steps successful brands have taken, and there are few other brands who are blindly throwing money at D2C for the sake of growth. We have seen many startups who have burned cash like mad, yet not gone to the scale that they really aspired for. So, to give the benefit of doubt, it's still early stages. People are experimenting. At the same time, it needs a very thoughtful approach on how to crack the code of D2C.
Okay. Moneka, 12% of D2C businesses are actually profitable. What distinguishes these 12%?
Good question. So the fact that they first of all followed some right practices is one big reason why they're distinguished from the rest. It is not a short-term game. You need to be in it for a long time. And that's how the incrementality and the value gets built. So that's one important area. The other thing is that they have cracked the code when it comes to the consumer experience very effectively to ensure that they are offering a very personalized, rich experience, which makes the customer want to transact with them directly. They're continuously harnessing the power of first-party data to ensure that they're able to cross-sell effectively, they're able to nurture the experience well, and so on and so forth. And lastly, of course, they're continuously learning from the consumer insights that they're getting out of their operations in the D2C space and leveraging it to do more and more innovations. So through some of these key steps that they're continuously taking, not as a one-off, practice, it's enabling them to break even over a period of time.
Let me go to Pratik on that. Pratik, both in terms of protecting margins and creating distinctive consumer propositions, what are the elements for a brand like yours, fashion, lifestyle, that kind of brand, to develop a robust omni-channel strategy? You want your own website, you want to sell on marketplaces, you want to sell on apps.
First things first, be it a fashion lifestyle brand or a beauty brand, we need to get the brand proposition right. That's the biggest moat. That's the biggest profitability driver.
What is your brand
eventually.
proposition?
The brand proposition for our beauty brand is, for example, to develop cosmetics line suited for Indian skin tone.
Okay.
It comes from a founder who has a different skin tone and a skin type.
Okay.
And she's proud of it and she wants to address that problem.
Understood.
Because we believe that most of the other international brands are having a portfolio which is suited for white or Caucasian skin. And that's the axis on which we want to develop our lipsticks, our face care products and skincare products. So every brand in my experience who have cracked the code of profitability and survived the test of time, first and foremost is to crack this distinct proposition. For us, this proposition comes from the founder because it's a founder-led brand. In some other case, it could be an ingredient-led story or it could be an origin story and so on and so forth. Second, I think we need to be present where the consumer is present. So if a certain category like a fashion or a lifestyle, consumers like to touch and feel. Consumers will want to try it probably before making a purchase, which probably today is not that feasible in a different channel. Mm-hmm. You have to be present in retail at a much earlier stage in your journey. Mm-hmm. Here we are going into retail much faster, for example, because we feel that the consumer needs to try out the fabric before they sort of make a purchase decision because it's a high ASP product. Or even I've seen consumers lipstick or foundation, they do a skin match, which of course AI, VR solutions are available. But consumers even now are finding it more comfortable to try it out before they apply it or make a purchase. So for me, the number one moat is what is that unique brand proposition? Second is be present where consumers are present. And the third is then once you are clear on your proposition, hammer it consistently without getting distracted for a reasonable amount of time, which goes back to the good old media principles.
The important phrase there is without getting distracted.
Yes.
So, Moneka, we have a distinctive brand proposition. We have 200 million people in the 5 to 30 lakh income band. But one of the top challenges for D2C brands is the high cost of customer acquisition or CAC.
Right.
What are D2C brands doing wrong and what could they do better?
Firstly, what D2C brands are doing wrong is that they are not being savvy with the way they use tools and technology to acquire customers. And that is leading to very high CAC.
Just throwing a lot of money at the problem.
Yeah, they
and
think
celebrities.
correct. And they're not investing into the hardcore tech, which can sort of help them optimize very effectively. So it's time that they really recognize the power of how tech and automation can help them optimize their investments better. So that's one point, right? In terms of what they could do differently, right? So I would break it into two parts. The first part is how do they ensure that they acquire customers in a more cost effective way, and what could that look like? So it should be done in the form of enabling a lot of organic discovery, like what Pratik called out, right? There should be more organic discovery where they are where the consumer is and they're naturally discovered. So that by itself helps. Hence, therefore, using more opportunities around influencer modeling, leveraging more of the viral content that they build to make sure that it travels on through a lot of word of mouth. So a lot of those areas would allow them to at least have themselves discovered faster. So that's the part on customer acquisition. The other part is on customer retention, where again, it's Pareto's principle, right? You got to sort of really make sure that you invest into those 20% which get you the 80%, and the acquired customers will always get you the larger chunk of revenue. So to ensure that you're continuously investing in them rightly, be it in terms of cross-selling and upselling to them at the right time in the right way, be it in terms of ensuring that you identify early signs of churn and sort of cover up on it faster before you lose that customer. And lastly, also in terms of ensuring very effective CRM all through the life stage of the customer, so that the longevity of the customer is higher and you kind of have them locked more effectively through the kind of stacks you leverage to manage customer retention.
LD, if I can ask you to react to what Moneka just said. The technology is not a mystery anymore. People have access to the technology. It's available at a reasonable price. And there's no information that's hidden that brands don't know about the technology. Why then would Moneka be saying that brands aren't using technology effectively? What's the missing element here?
What differentiates successful brands from also ran brands is the discipline and the way to apply the technologies. To give you an example, in D2C, everybody knows that you're going to get a lot of first-party data, right? Some people say, okay, let's just skip the phone number, email ID, we'll figure out later. Versus the real winners are actually figuring out, using that D2C data, first-party data, can I do lookalike modeling so that my media becomes more efficient, right? Can I find out where the location these people are coming and therefore design my operations accordingly? Which pin code I should be serving, which I'm missing out right now? Where should I open my dark store for last mile distribution? Lot of these decisions can come out based on the technology investment, provided you really have a long-term thought out strategy behind this. Vis-a-vis just going with the buzzword, spending money and buying a best CRM and CDP. I think that's what's differentiating brands who are actually cracked the code versus others who are struggling.
Just quickly to add to what LD said, there's also a lot of lack of governance in terms of ensuring that technology invested into, is it being rightly utilized and adequately utilized? It gets invested into and then it's underutilized. So that's the challenge.
Pratik, same question to you. How do you make sure you're buying the right technology, you have the right people to run the technology, and you have the right brand vision to maximize the use of the technology?
As both of them were speaking, I was realizing the devil lies in the detail. I know brands who have bought the right technology, but they're not tracking the events. And hence are not able to run some of the CRM campaigns to drop-offs, abandoned carts, and so on and so forth. So suddenly what has happened is there is a lot of data with the business heads or brand leaders, which in the traditional world would come at a lag. Here every user, as you said, at a pin code level, their entire history of user journey. But someone needs to be looking at the data and converting them into business decisions, which I feel is differentiating the winners from the rest.
Are these data scientists? Are these brand managers? Who are they?
These are the new age growth marketeers, as I call them. I think it's a topic where I'm very passionate how brand managers need to evolve into growth brand managers, and they need to be able to marry consumer insights and it's art and commerce coming together. The ones who are able to make that shift, I feel, are doing better for themselves and their businesses.
Okay. I'm going to stick with the theme of technology. India is one of the few countries where the government is innovating technology almost as fast as the private sector. UPI being a prime example of that. And the India stack itself is changing. What should D2C brands be doing today to be sort of future India stack ready?
To the due credit to the government, I think they are democratizing access, right? If you think, be it UPI, be it Sahmati, be it Aadhaar, and so on and so forth, it is to bring the technology to the masses. Now, it is up to the brand to say, how do I leverage this technology to reach where my customers are? And that's what Pratik was saying, right? As brand owners, you need to go where the customers are.
Yeah.
So, for example, India Stack has now brought a lot of unorganized or hitherto offline customers into the digital world, be it Aadhaar, be it their bank account, be it UPI. Now, it's up to the brand owners right now to design that customer journey, which can also address the needs of the different strata in our society. And that means maybe localization, so that it's not just English, not everybody understands. That may need have an implication on pricing. That may be in terms of how you package your product, what kind of bundling and assortment you are doing. The core here is you have at your disposal infrastructure laid out by government. You have tons of data that's coming in. Are you investing enough to make sense out of it and design your go-to-market strategy? I think that's what going to play the role of whether you are becoming profitable.
Okay, so the theme I'm getting is it's not the amount of money you invest, it's how you invest, what you invest in, what processes.
Just to add on this important topic of tech stack and data, I feel a lot of brands are focused on the front-end tech platforms and not investing enough in logistics fulfillment. Remember, you're competing with the Amazon from a customer TAT point of view. And in CX, I know so many D2C brands who are seeing rapid scale up but are not able to cope up in terms of the customer responses. And there are enough tools and plugins available to look at CX and logistics and fulfillment also. That also is, I feel, an important.
These are some of those operational challenges you talked about in your report as well. That being amongst one of the top 3 concerns for D2C brands. Pratik, changing gears a little bit, social commerce and influencer marketing, especially for a fashion and lifestyle brand, are very glamorous things to do. It's got color and celebrities and exciting stuff to do. But the ROI case is not crystal clear, is it? How do you navigate this?
First of all, I feel this creator economy boom has been great for young brands, be it fashion, lifestyle, or any sector for that matter. Remember, we discussed about a brand proposition. Now, the brand proposition needs to be pushed out so that it reaches 10, 15 or whatever is the target audience for that brand. Most young brands, be it a fashion lifestyle brand, struggle with budgets to do the typical old school reach frequency campaigns or television advertisements. I think the creator economy and the influencers give you the power to reach out with your brand proposition quickly at scale to the right audiences, depending on whether you choose to do it via Meta, you do it via other publishers, Google, etc., etc. So first of all, I wanted to say that it's great that now young brands have a way to quickly send their brand proposition out. Now, coming to the concern you're talking about, again, it depends on the business and the brand as to how you are running influencer. What has worked for me is I run it as a revenue channel. You heard that right, I run it as a revenue channel. I measure the direct purchase ROAS.
And you can attribute, you can attribute it to them.
They are tracked via Google Analytics, and I'm able to actually see which ones are working for me. The ones which are working for me, we try and find more influencers in that genre, in that segment. And the ones where we are not seeing that kind of traction, we do a continuous phase in, phase out. And this is my biggest advice to 0 to 1 brands. Because many a times you will be tempted or carried away to work with, as you said, some glamorous influencer. Because you feel that it will give your brand a lot of buzz. But do try and measure what it is doing for you. I only run influencers who at least get me traffic, if not the full transaction. And thanks to all the data which we were talking 10 minutes back, everything is trackable. The entire funnel can be tracked if you are getting them to get traffic to your website. So that's how I have been optimizing. And it has worked brilliantly for me in my
So run it as a revenue channel is Pratik's advice. On that note, Moneka, LD and Pratik, thank you very much for talking to Melt.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure was ours.
And with that, it's a wrap on Melt today. Keep following Melt on social media. The handle is Ready to Melt, or simply log on to readytomelt.com. If you'd like to follow me, I'm at Suvenk on X. Till next week, goodbye and thanks for watching.